Welcome back, everyone, to Blue Collar Startup. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Nelson from 5 Towers Media.
And I'm Derek Foster of Daigle Cleaning Systems. How are you, Mike?
Yeah, you are. I'm good.
What's going on?
I'm good. I don't know, man. I'm like running around like a what's the saying? Busier than a one-arm paper hanger.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's PC still. If you can say those things.
Yeah, dropping off gear. We met with Nick at People Ease, so we got him his gear and those guys over there. So
I got a new golf shirt. I don't golf, and like I literally have not swung club in probably 10 or 15 years, and I got roped into doing a charity tournament next week. And so I'm like, I had to go buy golf shoes. I got to buy a glove. I bought the glove. I'm like, I don't even own a polo, for Christ's sake.
You know that's not going to help you play any better, right?
No, it's going to be terrible. I'm still going to smash that ball. Don't you worry. That's
right. Get out of that comfort zone.
I'm an athlete.
There you go.
So we should probably introduce our guests today.
Absolutely.
So, folks, we're joined today by Terry Hubbard from Peak Environmental. Is it Peak Environmental Systems? Peak Environmental?
Just Peak Environmental.
Just Peak Environmental. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Terry, we're going to let you give us a rundown because you guys do a lot of things, and really excited about today's conversation. And we'll tie in some of the things that Derek's doing too at his company because they're kind of on a similar line and the reasons why and all the good stuff. But give us a rundown about Peak Environmental.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Great to be with you again. I'm Terry Hubbard, as was mentioned, and I own a company called Peak Environmental, and we're in Clifton Park, New York. We are a landscape construction company. We're also a landscape service company, and we do both of those to a certain degree for residential and commercial clients. Currently, right now, we're probably about 75% build and about 25% service. And, I got to tell you, it's just a really, really exciting time to be in the landscape business. It really is one of those trades where, early on it always seemed like, you hear the derogatory terms like land scraper or, something like that. And, people would look down on kind of that trade versus, say, a trim carpenter, a plumber, an electrician. But I think it's pretty obvious to most people these days when they're looking at the backyards that are being built, the commercial properties and the investments they're putting in the landscape these days, that we do some awesome stuff. Yeah. And it's not a single trade. Like, we're really a general contractor. We're a builder and we're a general contractor that self-performs a lot of what we do. Mm-hmm. So I've never been, more excited about being in this business than I am, right now, because we're really just seeing great projects and innovation permeate right through our whole industry. So it's pretty awesome. But, long and short of what we do is we pride ourselves, and it's part of our logo, we're landscape construction professionals. Most of our work is design build or bid build. Mm-hmm. So we're working with architects, engineers, we have blueprints, and most of the projects start usually with a site work crew that goes in and roughs in all the utilities, foundations, that type of stuff, and then we go into hardscapes, foundations, structures, and once that's done, we make it look pretty. We put lighting systems and irrigation systems in and plan it all up and make it look great, But it definitely it's a passion, no doubt, and we're really fortunate because we've been able to build some really, really gorgeous stuff.
Yeah. So. And to your point earlier, I know a lot of landscapers, right? A lot of landscape companies, and many of them are pretty wealthy men and women. It's a great industry to be a part of. There's a lot of money to be made in it, a lot of opportunity. And you're probably, at this point, you're probably turning down work, there's just so much work out there and so much demand and so little, I know it probably doesn't seem like it to you sometimes because you're going up against the probably the same 6 companies that you always run into on those bids, but everyone turns around and it's hard for them to find quality people, they're good people that are in the industry, have been in a while, know what they're doing, and take a professional approach like that you do. It's, if you're listening, just not in this market, other markets, good. Look in other markets for opportunities. But so I know that we want to talk about the robots, man. But
he came and greeted me when I got out of the truck in the parking lot here.
Yeah, same thing. And just so you guys know, for our listeners, Terry and his company recently incorporated Mobots. Can we call them? Do they call them Mobots? They probably already do.
Yeah, robotic mowers, auto mowers, Mobots. I like that. I've never heard it. Yeah,
I coined that. Everybody.
TM.
That's me. That's me. You heard it here first. Copyright. But the Mobots is just same thing. I got out and this thing basically greeted me. It like came up to the gravel line, turned around, and it was perfect lines.
Yeah,
like perfect, and not like diagonal lines, like you're putting the lines in the lawn. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's a setting on them where you can either stripe it or do a checker.
Or do a checker.
Yeah. So you ask the customer what they want, and you set the robot to do it. So it's pretty cool.
I think I'm partial to the checker.
Yeah, are they using those at baseball fields?
Yeah.
Seems like a really good application.
So I was at Fenway Park last year, and I did a tour. I was out there midsummer. And sure enough, we're a dealer for Husqvarna, and that's the robots that we're using.
Oh, nice.
And Husqvarna had 2 robots out there striping the outfield while we were doing the tour.
Wow.
So yeah, nobody has to mow the field anymore.
Yeah.
So
Good mowers. That's what I got at home. Shout
Husky?
out to Husqvarna. Yeah, shout out to Husqvarna.
I got Husky everything. My chainsaw, anything. If it needs to take a licking and keep on ticking, you got to go Husky. As far as I'm concerned, feel free Husqvarna to sponsor our show. They are not an official sponsor, everyone. So tell us about how did the Mobot? How did the Mobot even come to be a thing for you guys?
Well, this is I think a longer story than that, and I'll start with about 2012. I started looking at service. We were trying to get more commercial snow plowing, and we realized that the guys that were getting all the commercial snow were doing the lawn work as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't, to this day, I don't even know how to run a zero turn. Maybe I've told you that before, but I'm not a lawn guy by any means. But I had to start this division, and I was down in Louisville, Kentucky, at one of our national conferences put on by the National Association of Landscape Professionals, and I was looking at the sponsorships and all the gold sponsors. I'd never heard of these companies. And so I started doing a little Googling, and it was pretty obvious very quickly that a large part of them were billion-dollar chemical companies that were sponsoring a landscape industry. And for me, I owned a company called Peak Environmental. I'm into clean water and, and things like that. And so it really just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm going, why are these billion-dollar chemical companies sponsoring our event? We should not be using those chemicals, So, but as you start getting into the commercial maintenance world, it's a highly competitive market. It's all about hours, how quick you can do it, and how green you can make the grass. And nobody's interested in hearing about robots. They don't want to hear about pesticide-free lawn care applications that cost 30% more. They're not interested. They're looking for a price point, and that's it. So for a lot of years, we were doing what everybody else was doing, right? We're just mow, blow, go, as they say, and dumping a bunch of chemicals on the lawns. And we always use subcontractors for the chemicals. We never really did much in-house at all with that. But as I started really seeing the tech come along, and this chemical process was just the fact that chemicals had to be part of our contracts, that was bugging me. And I was looking for a way to really just change the service offering. And we started about 3 years ago where we just said to all our maintenance customers, we're not giving you an option. If you want fertilizer from us, it's going to be organic and pesticide free. And I had one customer decide not to use us for FERT. Everybody else paid 30% more and went with organic, pesticide-free lawn care applications.
Nice.
Wow.
So I moved them all over, didn't even give them an option.
Yep.
So we started there, but then I started looking deeper into the service. And, if you think about landscapes, part of the issue, other than the chemicals that run off into our streams and rivers and lakes and ponds, is the water that we're dumping on them to try to get this luscious green lawn that everybody desires. And it's the billion-dollar chemical companies that want you to think that you have to have this perfect green lawn. It's like a sign of your manhood or something.
Right, right.
And it's anybody out there that identifies their manhood with the quality of their lawn, I would just check yourself a little bit, all right? It's good to have hobbies. Honestly, it is, and some people pride themselves and on taking care of their lawn and mowing it and having it look meticulous. But at what cost? Can we really do this for another 200 years? Right. Dump chemicals into our rivers and streams?
Oh, I'm with you, man.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of nuts to me. So, and by the way, like, I can think of 150 other things I'd rather be doing than mowing my lawn.
Same.
150 at least.
That's why I got sheep.
Yeah. You got sheep?
Well, actually, I just destocked, so I don't currently have sheep, but I had sheep for the last few years, and I didn't have to mow anything. I just put the sheep on them for 3 days, and lawn's taken care of.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And they refer on, the front end of them eats the grass, and the back end fertilizes as they pass through. So
maybe we should add that as a service.
I think maybe. I had a conversation with one of the people at my kids' preschool where they had this like dead patch of grass, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know what to do to get grass grown." I'm like, I know what to do. I'm like, throw some hay on it, throw some sheep in there. I'm like, they're gonna poop, they're gonna eat the hay is gonna decompose, it's gonna bring the soil back to life. The seeds that are in the hay are gonna help get you some green stuff growing up through there. It's all you got to do. She's looking at me like I'm insane, which I probably am, but I'm like, I don't know, that's what I would do. I'm like, I might throw down some seed, but I would put some sheep and some hay on it first.
Right.
So that's just me.
So, but yeah, as you really start looking at, our industry and how we've been, building landscapes, it is based on this beautiful lawn that has to be meticulous. There's not a lot of care, especially in the Northeast, for water use, right? The water's relatively cheap, so we just dump it on there. And, most of the home builders, not for anything, there's some good ones out there that value topsoil, but we're in Clifton Park. I mean, everybody uses the poor man's topsoil, which is sandy loam, and they dump it all over the site. And, I mean, it's sterile.
Yeah, it's like not great for growing grass.
You need chemicals and water to get a nice lawn, and lots of it. So, there's so many things that we can do. Topsoil in the beginning is one of them. High quality topsoil that's got at least 3 inch, 4 inches thick. When we do that, we can not dump as much water on it, and we can not put as much chemicals on it. Some of the other things that we look at are just renovating the properties and limiting the amount of lawn that we're actually having to care for. So again, less water, less chemicals, right? Naturalizing a lot of those spaces so we can bring in wildlife, right? I know a lot of people, especially with HOAs, would think, well, we don't want some meadow out in the front of the lawn. We want perfect little houses in a row with the green lawn. But you can do this and really have great aesthetics and have it look awesome. So, minimizing the lawn is a big thing. Controlling the amount of irrigation and chemicals you're putting on it, making sure you got good topsoil. And then you get into the robot mowers and electric equipment, as well. Like, if you live in a subdivision, I don't, but we've worked in plenty, and the noise that goes on there during the day is nuts. The amount of landscape companies coming in with trucks and equipment, loud leaf blowers and stuff. And you're seeing right now that there's legislation all over the country happening. A lot of it's in cities, but they're all making you go to electric equipment.
Interesting.
Yeah, like they don't want leaf blowers running. And if you're on, if it's a Friday night and you're trying to have a drink on your patio and your neighbor loves mowing his lawn on Friday night, that could be frustrating. So we made the choice this year as we started introducing the robot mowers. We went to all electric handheld equipment, so leaf blowers, weed whackers, chainsaws, trimmers, everything. And our guys absolutely love it. They're not handling petroleum products anymore, having to fill up and go to the gas stations and all that. It's whisper quiet. They're really efficient. They work well. There's some limitations still with the electric stuff, but like on a large commercial site, the battery power can be limited a little bit. But residentially, no brainer. Everybody should be using electric. So,
does it save you a lot of money not having to put gas in those machines?
Well, you're paying it with the electric bill. Okay. But
what about upkeep and things? Because now you don't have the same kind of motor that you do. You don't have the corrosion from some of the oil and the gas. And
I think it's definitely in terms of cost. There's a net savings there. Okay. And if you think about when something isn't running right and they have to sit there and try to start it 50 times and get frustrated and let it sit because it's flooded, all that doesn't happen anymore. You know,
so a lot
there's
fewer
no,
F-bombs out there.
Yeah, you don't need to change the plugs, right?
Yeah.
The air filter doesn't get
Well, right.
clogged. None of that stuff happens.
Is there even an air filter at that point?
Right.
Because you don't have combustion, so does an air filter? I don't think electric ones have an air filter, do they? I'm not sure about that, but
I have no idea.
I'm no small engine mechanic.
No, they don't need air.
Yeah.
So, but it's just they're super operator friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the guys have liked that, and when we go to houses, if you're in a Zoom meeting and your landscapers show up, we're not disruptive to you. Because a lot of people work from home. I mean, you guys have all been there, and all of a sudden the guy shows up to mow the lawn, you're like, oh shit.
I know that Mobot outside, I don't think it was making a noise.
Very quiet.
It was like, I wouldn't have known. It was like creeped up on me kind of thing,
So another great point of these robots is, we spec them to mow your lawn twice a week, not once a week. So when grass is growing like crazy in May and your landscaper starts raining and your landscaper doesn't show up for 10 days and it starts to look like a hayfield, that doesn't happen. These things mow rain or shine, and they mow your lawn twice a week.
Do you leave them on site, or do you how does that look? How does that work?
Yeah, we sell them directly to the homeowners.
Okay.
And they can just buy them from us. We'll set them up, and then they're on their own. Or very often we're looking to have service packages that go along with them. With the robots, you still have to do some weed whacking, but the cool thing with them is it allows us to start elevating our staff. Instead of having them towing lawnmowers around all over the Capital District and mowing, they can show up and do skilled labor tasks, right? So they're inspecting and repairing lighting systems. They're monitoring and adjusting irrigation to save water. They're doing horticultural work and fine gardening. And our sales guys are freed up to do more concierge type services like pressure washing and the house, cleaning the gutters, sealing the driveway. So we're just able to, with the robots, add just a much higher level of service to our landscape service department.
So there's a part of the conversation that I feel like we should have, just because it's a sign of the times. But we were, like we said, we met with Nick from People's before coming over here, and I was telling him we were coming over here to talk about Mobots. I didn't use Mobots yet because I hadn't coined that term yet, copyright, trademark. But one of the things we were talking about is, it's my belief that in a lot of industries that we're going to see more and more and more of things like Mobots or automation through AI and less people-driven systems. People still need to be involved, make sure that the Mobots are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but a lot fewer people, and talking about some of the pressures behind that, right? So, and I'll say the pressures that we identified, so I'm not putting those words in your mouth, and I just wanted to hear if that rings true for you or if there's other motivations behind it. But, one of the discussions we were having is that, as business owners, we find that we'll say that entry-level labor force is harder and harder to come by. Less people want to do it for the amount of money that we as business owners are able to pay for that. So we have a shrinking labor force there. Right now, I think it's a fact that our migrant workforce is getting smaller, and that farms and construction companies and landscape companies that often rely on migrant workers, whether they're, and I'm not the discussion of illegal or legal, right? But just migrant workers, people from other countries coming into this country to work for the summer and do these jobs, that they're fewer and fewer and harder to find. And so again, hurting that workforce. And just, so really when we look at things like going to a Mobot, or like with Derek's company and his janitorial company, with what, they've got these robots that are mopping floors and vacuuming and doing similar things that your Mobots are doing. I got to come up with a term for your robots.
It's actually the trademark name, Scrubby.
The Scrubby?
Scrubby is that's his name.
Amazing.
And then the UV disinfection robot is Violet.
That's amazing.
They actually
all right, they got good marketing.
Trademark.
We got to talk to the people in the Mobot industry. So those were just some of the factors that we were talking about that we see, and even like in the marketing industry with, AI is obviously a huge thing. Image generators, video generators, ChatGPT, Grok, taking care of all the text and copy and research and all these other things. So when you were looking to add these robots, were you seeing any of those kinds of pressures, or is it more just the opportunity came up and you looked at ways to implement it in your business that made sense, and then you found what you're doing? Or what were some of the, kind of reasons for you to bring them in, other than what you just described?
I did a strategy exercise, 5 years ago or something, and I was writing down the problems that I saw with the landscape industry.
Yeah.
And that's really how it really started to come about, because, between the chemical use, the wasted water, labor shortages, definitely, and then looking at the tech that was available and the things that we could do to actually really do it right. And as I started putting together our suite of services, and by the way, our division is called Green Care, and as I was putting together all of our green care services, I just kept coming back to the simple fact that what I was proposing was the best way. That there wasn't a better way to do it. And that's my opinion, and I think plenty of guys could come out and say, hey man, that's not right. But if you want to limit noise pollution, you think about aerating a lawn. Why do we aerate a lawn? Because we're running a big, heavy 1,000-pound mower over it.
Right, that soil compaction.
Right. You put a robot, you don't have to aerate the lawn anymore.
Yeah.
You do it once before the robot starts, and then it's good. So you look at the water savings. You look at all the benefits of what I'm talking about, adding topsoil instead of treating with water and chemicals down the road. It's just the right way. I hate to say it, but I feel like the way we're offering our services, we have a moral high ground. And I would challenge anybody to have that conversation with me of why they think their way is better. But if you're concerned at all with the future of the planet and what your kids and grandkids are going to inherit, and what this place is going to look like in 100 or 200 years, I think you'd see my point of view probably has some merit there.
I think it's amazing. I really do. I'm not saying that just because you're on our podcast, but I really do. As a person who's very passionate about farming, it really makes me very passionate about the things that we're doing that we're screwing up, right? Like chemical inputs that a lot of commercial farmers are using, and what it does to the soil, and then running tractors and all that stuff, and how it compacts the soil, and it just keeps going down the line, and then how it pollutes the aquifers, and how it pollutes our ponds and streams. And so I can't take my kid fishing because we've been dumping too much nitrogen in the freaking soil for the last 25 years, and there's no fish left in that pond or in that stream. So I think it's amazing, and I think you say moral high ground, which almost makes it sound like you're set, but I think it's a good moral high ground, though. I think that's a good hill to die on, personally. You mentioned you were doing a strategy exercise. I would be really curious. Is that something you do often, yearly, and what does it entail when you do strategy exercises for your business? I'd be lying if I said it was anything formal.
Okay. Very often, it usually is after I have a few drinks, and I start getting these ideas, or I have an epiphany. And usually I'm very relaxed, and just things are kind of coming and going. But I'm a note taker, and I write things down, and I go back to them. And we were talking about AI earlier, and that notebook LM I use with Google. I've literally taken all of my notes and everything I've learned or thought was cool for the last 15 years and downloaded them into a single notebook. And again, I can go back to that and ask it questions and see kind of what it will pull out.
Oh, that's
it's a ton of notes. There's book notes in there. I go to a lot of seminars, and I travel a lot and go to landscape industry events and things like that. And
so you're big on self-education.
There's plenty to learn. So that's a big part of it. Like I'm every quarter I'm in a peer group, so I'm meeting with them every quarter, either in person or via Zoom, and I go to industry events, and I'm there for the education. I listen to all the speakers, and so I've been able to kind of really see what the whole country's doing, what the new stuff is coming out. So it just it was almost organic, where the way it all kind of came together, and all of a sudden I saw, hey, there's a better way we can do this. And by the way, I'm probably going to scare away 85% of the people that want these types of services right now because they don't agree with me. But that's okay. That 15% that agree are really going to want our service, and there's nobody else in my space.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any other way. When it came time to really delve into residential services, this was the only way. There was no other option.
Yeah. And to your point, that 15%, we're talking about the early adopters, right? And so like, it's my own personal view, selling to the early adopters is the best way to get you ahead of the curve, because then by the time the next group comes in, after those early adopters have helped you to like prove your model, now you already have all this experience. Your competitors now are waiting for that next part of the curve, right? And it's like, well, I've already got 5 years doing this. I'm already ahead. I know messaging, I know systems, I know processes, and it's going to take them another 5 years to figure it out. So I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Very forward thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You mentioned a peer group. Is that industry specific or is that regional?
Yeah, no, it's a landscape industry
Oh,
peer
okay.
group. Jeffrey Scott Consulting is what it is, and he's got maybe eight peer groups right now, I think.
Yeah.
And we've got about 15 businesses in our group all over the country, and it's really cool. We do a quarterly meeting, but it's all about accountability. Business owners don't have, in most cases, somebody there holding them accountable. And what this group does is, you share your financial work or financial goals and your performance every quarter. You can see when you're not doing well. Everyone knows it. They reach out, try to help you. And then we go to somebody's business every 6 months. So you got basically a consultant team of about 13 or 14 business owners that are coming into your business, interviewing your staff, looking at your process and procedures, and then making recommendations.
That's awesome.
Which is hugely powerful. I had them come here to Saratoga in 2023, and you're prepping and you're getting ready. You're like, oh, they're going to love everything we're doing. But business owners have blind spots, and you don't know what you don't know, and very often people don't tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
And so they showed up, and they told me what I needed to do, and it was humbling, and at some point I felt like eating my hat. But changes we made in the first week, we were able to double our gross revenue the next month.
Wow.
We doubled it.
That's wild.
Yeah. So powerful stuff, powerful group, great people, and you travel with them, and so you become great friends too.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of coaching and using outside consultants. I know we've been talking about it a lot the last few months. I just started working with Bill Tanzi from the OpEx shop.
Okay.
He's a personal friend. Bill and I have known each other for years, but I was like, operations has never been my strength. Obviously, I'm a sales guy. And I was like, shit, I gotta get some help, man. So I brought him in, and we had one session, man, and he tore me down a little bit. Like you said, it's kind of hard to hear. So it's humbling, but at the same time, it's like it's hopeful too, because it's like, all right, no, this person can help me see the blind spots that I can't see, and it's great. I'm stoked. I've already done a ton of work. I'm channeling my inner Derek. To get all that process
writing some
done.
processes.
Oh my God, man! Like every night of my life right now, I'm spending like 5 hours knuckling through. We already had a bunch of stuff, but like no one looks at it. I haven't looked at it in like a year or two. It's outdated. It's blah blah blah. So it's I love it.
Constant process.
Yeah, I think everybody should engage outside help, at least in a small fashion, right? Would you agree? It sounds like you're...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a peer group's a great way to start. Consultants are good, but you have to do all the work anyway, and you pay them a good chunk of money. We meet every 2 weeks in a trio as part, we do our best to, but you've got a team of like 3 guys that, week to week, you can call, email, and get responses. If you want to know what process people are using for a certain part of your operations, hey, who has a process that, about this that you could share, and all of a sudden people are sending you stuff. They'll send you contracts. They'll send you whatever you need,
Yeah. And these folks are outside of your market, so it's not like you care about sharing any of that stuff because you're not doing it with a direct competitor. It's someone you're never going to run into on a bid, right? That must help a lot.
Yeah, and we're all there and happy to see each other succeed. We're all rooting for each other,
Yeah, I know when I was in the snow and ice industry, we used to go away to SIMA. I don't know if you're familiar with SIMA or not.
Yeah.
And Snow and Ice Management Association, great organization, but every year we'd have, I forget what they called it, but it was like winter in July or whatever. But we go to these conferences, we go to the SIMA conference, and that's what it was just. I mean, there was probably thousands of people at each one of these, huge trade show, but then the learning the things they had, the breakouts and all the things that they had where you could just go and share best practices with people that are not your competitors. So they have no problem telling you how they do every single thing in their operation. They're not sharing trade secrets with someone that's going to be stealing business from them. And it's powerful. I used to love that experience.
You come back and you're, from these types of events and you're just absolutely excited about business again. It fires you up. Now, that said, you do have to be really careful, because if you come in the door fresh from a trip like that no one else in the business went on,
right,
or very few, and you're like, we're changing everything. It doesn't go well.
What do you mean? People love change, Terry.
Pick your battles, right, or prioritize.
They're like, oh man, what's he doing now? Jesus. So, you got to be kind of careful how you roll this stuff out. And, but all good stuff, and definitely empowering and get you excited. Because I think as entrepreneurs, you need that excitement. You can't get mired in operations, right? You need the next big thing that you're doing. So, and that's what those events do.
Which your operations people just love, I bet, right? The next big thing.
I try to send them to things now too, so they're coming back with those ideas as well. And I'll get a little help with change and transformation. So, and I've had to with the robots. I've really kind of outsourced that to our service department, and our salesman Joe and our project manager Rob. They went out to Husqvarna and did all the training, and have worked with all the tech support guys and all that. So this is their baby. I just kind of teed them up with the idea, and and they get excited about it. They love it. They love the education as well. So it's cool to see them be able to kind of start crafting this thing. So,
do you find that like I don't want to say the novelty, but the just the newness of the robots and what it can do, and just changing up their day, like do they get excited about that? I mean, do they like that, or was it a hard transition into moving away from how you were doing things to implementing the robots?
Rob's one of those guys that loves mowing a lawn, and that's great. But at the same time, I think he really did like the technical aspect of installations, and we have dashboards that we can see how the robots are doing, if they're throwing any codes, if they've got issues of any kind. So there's a whole technical component that he's also very excited about. So he realizes where the industry's going. He understands it. I've been talking about it for a while. It's for the right people. I think it's opportunity, right? And it's growth. So whether it's personal development and also just growth for the company and the service department. So
how does it? So Derek was showing me his system for his Violet and Scrubby, where they use LiDAR, which is amazing to me, to map out the facilities. And they create a map of it, and then legitimately he can operate it from his phone. Like he can send the robot out, he can see what it did, and get reports, and it's a great accountability piece, I'd imagine. How does the Mobot map out the property? Like, is it using Google? Is it using do you have to go there and give it parameters? Like, what does that all look like?
Nobody knows.
Big secret.
Well,
trade secrets.
I don't know. That would be a question for Rob or Joe. I do know that they do all the setup on their phone, and they're able to adjust right on their phone, like where it's going to mow. They're able to set up, I think, like quadrants, and they can, have it mow one quadrant more often than another. That type of thing. So there's a fair amount of controls.
And then the homeowner gets the app for it as well? Is that how that works?
Yeah, and it depends on the level of service they're looking for. Some of them don't want to get involved with it. And then we're out there. And usually the first week, you've kind of got you find a few things that the robot doesn't like, and you've got to go out there and, mess around with it. And get it trained, essentially. And you may need to adjust the landscapes a little. But other than that, these things are pretty autonomous. Once you get them going, and running good, they're just out there working. And I've got one in my house now, and in the mornings I get up and I've got my coffee, and I'm looking out the window and looking to see where
I'm mowing my lawn.
Yeah, I'm looking to see where he's at and how he's doing. So it really is pretty cool.
I don't know if you have small kids. I have a 5-year-old that likes to jump on the Roomba and go around in circles, and then eventually they break. Can you ride these little Mobots?
No, if you get close to them, they stop, and
Oh, really?
and the blades shut off. Like they have, they have that awareness. If I have dogs that like
Yeah.
to go up to it and bark, and that's starting to wear thin. They're not doing it as much, but the thing just sits there and waits for the dog to stop barking and get out of the way, and then it keeps on mowing.
Wow.
So yeah.
I wouldn't have that much patience.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is
That
pretty
is
cool.
wild.
Yeah, and they learn. They tell us they learn. It's all part of the algorithms. As they're doing the lawns, they're trying to figure out the most efficient routes to save battery and all that. So like the first couple of weeks, the thing's just kind of learning and dialing it all in so it can actually do it efficiently. So
From a service and sales area for you, where do you cover?
So construction, we have a much bigger footprint. What we say is with service that we're Saratoga County.
Okay.
So we just cover Saratoga County and that's it. If we've got a large build project in Albany County and they require a high level service after the build, then we'll go take care of them by all means. But we're not trying to just add one-off services outside of the county. So
Do you look for like route density and things like that when you're trying to be more efficient as a company, or?
yeah, route density is great. You've got to get really aggressive with price, and we honestly haven't been that strategic with our service. I think really we're because of how we're offering it and what we do, we're really just trying to find the people that want the service level that we offer.
Yeah.
And there aren't, a lot of
It's
people
not
don't want that
everybody.
level of service.
Right.
Yes, they don't. So we're really just trying to find, connect with the right customers. And, we got to drive there. So it is what it is. If I had 10 mow crews and we were all out, just trying to keep these mowers busy, by all means. But, if you're going to a site and performing all kinds of services throughout the season that isn't just mowing, the reality is mowing, guys are charging, I don't know, with equipment and everything, it might be $70-$80 an hour, but you go to irrigation service, it's $150 an hour.
Yeah.
So the route density all of a sudden doesn't become as important because, the dollar amount per visit is much higher at that point.
So for you guys, do you find like in the past before... My mic just got funny on me. In the past, before the mowers, or before the Mobots, I'm sorry, did you find that like the mowing was kind of that like easy sale in, and then you would try to pick up the other services as far as like whether it's irrigation or whatever else you want to sell to them? Like,
we really just started delving into the residential market in the last few years, and really it's most of our services come through our build clients. So we go build a project for them and then we're selling them on services after it.
Okay.
So before that, it was really all commercial.
Interesting.
And so our green care really it's been customized for residential. So, and we can expand it to commercial, but there's some limitations there with larger properties and complex layouts of sidewalks and things like that.
yeah, I was thinking about like the Wilton Target DC over there, like, it's a perfect space for robots, but it's huge.
Yeah.
And like, what would that look like from a...
Yeah, that's where you get into the large commercial robots that you see at Fenway Park.
Yeah.
And those things, they're, just to buy them, they're $35,000.
Oh, I bet.
And then you got to install them and program them and all that. So there's a whole commercial division that handles it. But
How big are those units?
I think they're probably close to 3 feet wide.
Oh, wow.
So they're probably doing close to a 36-inch swath.
So it's like a go-kart.
Yeah.
Right, like a robot go-kart that's going around mowing your lawn.
They're sizable.
They're sizable,
when you come up on them,
Yeah. Wild. I know, let me just look at...
How are you doing with, training staff or bringing staff on, Terry? Did you have to change anything up, with the addition of the robots, or how does that work for you when you bring somebody new on?
So we spend the winters usually doing a day of training every week, as long as our snow plowing services allow it. So we're with all our core people 8 hours a day, once a week for about 13 weeks, give or take. And we usually do a whole curriculum in the wintertime because it's the perfect time to train and get everybody, kind of fired up for the spring. And we kind of lay out the guidelines of what we're expecting from them, in the spring. We talk about our production hours, and if they think they can, here's what you hit last year, can you hit a higher amount this year? How you going to, set up your trailer and make sure you have all the tools. But, one of the things I do is yearly I show everybody this this documentary by Sir David Attenborough. Do you know that guy?
No.
He's the guy who does all the wildlife documentaries. I got a bad impression.
Please.
It's the rainy season on the Serengeti. You know that guy?
Oh, I do know that guy.
Yeah, you know that guy.
All right.
So Sir David Attenborough, he's 95 now or something, but he did a documentary about 4 years ago just about his life on the planet. And the guy's been documenting wildlife for 60, 70 years. And he's showing like him in Borneo at 25 years old. And, and it keeps ticking down like how much wilderness is on the planet.
Interesting.
Each year, and as the decades go by, how much the wilderness is reduced, and how much our populations have risen, and the carbon and everything else. So, but he used to get a lot of guff because he would never talk about climate change in any of his stuff. But this one, it's a testament of what he's seen, in this time. And so when we bring people in and we're starting with that film, and at the end he goes, look, we can fix this. All we have to do is start to naturalize our planet again. We have to, that's the solution to climate change and everything else. We just need to naturalize. So this is why we want to get rid of, these turf monocultures and the chemicals and the water wasting. We want to naturalize more, and we want wildlife around our houses. Yes, some of it can be a nuisance. It is what it is, and you need some lawn. But we show them that film, and that starts to get people to kind of understand what we're trying to do here. And then from there, we start kind of divvying people up into their different divisions of softscape and hardscape and all that. So this year we really went eco-friendly on all our services, and we had our staff all working on projects. We haven't finished it out here. You see we have a little bit of a construction site. But we were trying to contact all our vendors locally and figure out the best options we had for materials and practices that were the most eco-friendly. So things like we can buy really cheap plastic lights, and the carbon footprint from something like that is a fraction of what it is to do something that's made out of an alloy or a brass or copper. So great way to save the money. Also, all you really need is the light bulb pointed at a tree. You know what I mean? So do you really care what's around it?
Right.
So we're finding things like that, changing the ways that we do hardscapes to capture water and have it infiltrate. So these are the things we're talking about in the winter to try to make our services as eco-friendly as we can. We went through and decided on a whole indigenous plant palette, so we could stick with indigenous plantings when people really wanted, that kind of landscape. So, those are the things we're working on in the winter, and then we get out and try to sell it all in the summer.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
Sounds like high attention to the small details that make a big difference.
Yeah, and asking your staff for help.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I probably struggled with for a lot of years. But once you get them involved with that product that they're delivering, and they have a say of who they want to work with and what vendor and what material, all of a sudden you got some pretty good buy-in.
Yeah, because you're giving them some ownership of things, right?
That's right.
They get to make some decisions, be a part of that process.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know that we're getting short on time. I don't want to keep you here all day, and I know there was a lot of things we wanted to cover. Was there anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to?
I think we've covered most of it.
Most of it, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing more about Derek's robots.
Yeah.
So
you want to tell us
I
about
could talk
your
all
robots?
afternoon for about that,
About the robots?
yeah, we'll save that for another episode.
Okay. Well, you got to give us something, Derek. You can't leave the audience hanging.
No, very similar. I mean, it's for us, it's really been an engagement for our staff. They kind of see where things are going, and again, to Terry's point, probably along the same lines, it's being on the cutting edge and what's to come in the future, and they're able to be a part of that. So taking away some of the day-to-day tasks that are more physically demanding and allowing them to be repurposed to do some of the, more detail work or pay attention to some of the more, detail items that we might not always get to every single day. So for us, it's been a slow implementation, but we're starting to see it pick up and take some traction, which is cool. So
yeah, that's the point I think that most people misunderstand. These things aren't gimmicks. It allows us to offer better service, period.
Absolutely.
And that's why you do it. At some point, it'll be cheaper as well. Better service and cheaper. Right now, we're still trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it sounds like, both of you kind of touched on the fact that it gives your current staff the ability to focus on higher level tasks or more detail oriented tasks that they couldn't focus on before, which in turn, I'm sure they enjoy that.
Well, in our industry too, I don't know so much about mowing lawns. It's a little bit different, but we can clean an area in the building, and 5 minutes later, it's somebody walked over it, and it's dirty again. Well, with the robot, at least there's that accountability piece to where you can print out a nice report of everything that the robot had did, what time it went through, and the customer has that transparency so they can see what's being done.
Well, and like you were saying, like you can run the mower twice a week if you want to, right?
Yeah.
No harm, no foul.
Right.
And for you, like
Same thing.
if
You
something
could run it
happens,
twice a day.
you could, if 4 hours later someone walked through with muddy boots, you hit play on the old app and that thing goes and cleans it up. It's wild. As opposed to having to roll staff out, get them into a
Load
truck,
up a van.
get in the whole thing. Like
That's the other thing. Mobilization is not, getting any less expensive. We went through it with a customer the other day, and they were like, well, what is this? I'm like, well, it costs us money in order to get people to your location that's an hour away, and we're barely covering our costs for that, and it's eye-opening for people, but definitely a game changer.
Yeah. It's amazing. The future is now.
Exciting time to exciting time to be in, be alive and be in business.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I'm fascinated by all the things that are happening. For the good and the bad, it is grab the popcorn and just sit down, man.
Sit back and watch.
Holy
cow.
Terry, the big question, obviously, if you were going to tell our audience one thing about being in the trades, about operating a business, about doing what you do, if you're going to tell somebody one thing, what would that thing be?
I would tell you to really consider the landscape industry. There's a tremendous amount to offer. We've got carpentry and heavy equipment operation, plumbing, electrical, hardscape, masonry. There's just a tremendous amount of opportunity. When you get tired of doing one thing, very often you end up getting tasked to do something else. So it stays very interesting all the time. I always kind of thought, nothing against a roofer, but if I went and had to put shingles on every single day, I would be done in about a month.
Yeah, how about today? It's 93 degrees outside.
Let's start early in the morning.
That's right.
But the landscape industry really is a great industry, and at the end of the day, we get done with projects. They're fantastic, and everybody's really excited. That's a really great feeling to have, that we're not just doing a piece of it, but we're doing the entire thing. And just the amount of opportunity within one business to find different paths, how you could help it. On top of the trades, you can move up into sales and technician and an account rep. There's all kinds of things that you can do within the industry here. Commercial driving.
So, I know we're short on time, but are there any trade schools or educational opportunities for people who are interested in the landscape industry?
So NALP, which is the National Association of Landscape Professionals, they've got some really good certification courses that you can do to become a technician, or someone that's doing the maintenance, also someone that's building. They give you courses on irrigation, lighting, and hardscape construction, that type of thing. So they've done a great job with it. We've also found some leadership courses online that we've sent our guys to that are helpful. And then the industry events are loaded with learning. So the more you can get your people out to those events, the better.
It's awesome.
Well, we'll have to have them on the show. We just had Kurt from the RV Technical Institute, and they train mechanics to work on RVs. So
is that
it was
right?
a very, very interesting episode.
I don't think we can use the word mechanic, though. I think we have to use the word technician.
Technician.
Because mechanic might imply the engine work, which is not involved on the...
That's true. And you're going to be a technician pretty soon.
I am, yes.
So-
He offered to give us the program, so I'm going to do the program. I'm really excited about it. I love learning, so why not?
Yeah.
And I have an RV, so I'll be able to work on it myself instead of paying someone else $200 an hour.
There you go.
Terry, if people want to learn more about Peak Environmental, how do they find you?
Check out our website, peakec.com, and I'm on LinkedIn as Terry Hubbard. So check us out.
Awesome. Are you guys on the social medias these days? Or?
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram. We don't post a ton, but
Yeah.
once a week usually.
That's about all you need these days.
Yep.
It's awesome. Appreciate the time today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's been great, guys. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening. Of course, thanks to our sponsors that make all this stuff happen. Like I said, I think it's like the 5th time we said Peoplease in this episode, but we just met up with Nick from Peoplease. Who else we got?
Bonaccio Construction,
Thank you.
Catamount Consulting,
Martin Electric,
the Michaels Group.
Michaels Group, MLB Construction. One of these days I'm going to print out a list I can actually read something nice about.
That's okay. We're working on it.
We're
It's
working
a
on
work
it.
in progress.
Oh,
We both have day jobs.
That's right. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
And that wraps up another episode of Blue Collar Startup. A big thank you to our sponsors, 5 Towers Media, Daigle Cleaning Systems, Daigle Fire Solutions, the Michaels Group, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Peoplease, and Catamount Consulting for making this podcast possible. And thank you for tuning in. If you learned something or felt inspired, connect with us on our website at bluecollarstartup.io or email us at hardhat.bcsu@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions and topic ideas. Help us spread the word by sharing the show and following us on social media for updates. Until next time, keep on building, keep on dreaming, and keep hustling like your future depends on it.